It's Wednesday, December 11th, 2019, and this is the Pro and the Con Show, and I'm your host, Michael James Ott. Welcome to the show. Okay, so again, little snippet here at the beginning of each and every show. Let's all be better citizens, right? In this time, in this place where we are, it's really hard to ferret out the truth. And what is the truth? That's the who, the what, the where, and the when. And so go to more reliable sources like NPR or one of the major television networks, and hopefully more than one. But the ones specifically that don't do like an all news, all day format, but just put their news in just 30 minutes or an hour, much more likely to get just the facts, the who, the what, the where, and the when, instead of those information streams, so-called news streams, that are trying to fill a 24-hour time slot. Because those that are trying to fill 24 hours, they by definition have to inject in much more opinion. And they're, as far as I'm thinking, they're also not mandated to tell you the truth. So there's that. Okay, so today's show, I call BLOOMBERG. So many of you know, most of you know, that a billionaire he was the mayor of New York at one time. Michael Bloomberg has entered the Democratic race for the nomination of the Democratic Party. And so I want to speak to him a little bit. But just to set the stage here again, right now we have Mr. Trump in office, and there's a lot of you that like Mr. Trump, and that's great. But the problem is, as I said in previous shows, Mr. Trump is definitely in the tunnel of early onset dementia. And there's many examples in the public where it's obvious that his mental capacity is degrading, has degraded considerably from 20 years ago, and continues to degrade step by step, every week, every month, every year that he's been in the public eye. And so from my viewpoint, and I hope from your viewpoint, having someone that's suffering from dementia as President of the United States, well, that's simply something that cannot be an acceptable status. So there's an election in about a year, and in that election, at least from my viewpoint, we have to replace Mr. Trump with somebody else. Now, the ideal thing would be have these citizen statesmen that I've been talking about, so people that are found, selected at random from a fairly large pool, and then we review them and ultimately select people to fill the structure, the good structure of our government. So the folks that wrote the Constitution, they did actually a great job, balancing those three corners of the triangle between the executive, legislative, and judiciary branches of government. So it's really a strong concept. And what we've struggled, even from the beginning, is to fill that structure, that really solid structure, with the best candidates. And the way we've done it for years, arguably ever since Washington, has been not very good. We could do a lot better by, again, kind of following this analogy to jury duty and just randomly selecting large numbers of people and then filtering them based on their capabilities, experiences, education, intelligence, speaking ability, blah, 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 and allowing us all to look at these people that haven't been selected by the local ward in New York, or no major contributor to their campaign, no influence from foreign government. They're just people like you and I, and some of us, and you'll admit, I mean, some of us are going to be better at doing this kind of service to the country than others. But that will all sort itself out as we go through the filtering process, if you will, where we start, kind of cast a wide net and then step by step, select people on criteria fairly and openly until we get the best people to fill the different roles every election cycle. Should be very straightforward. Now, back to Mr. Bloomberg. So, Mr. Bloomberg, pretty sure I've heard from multiple sources that it's estimated that he's worth about $55 billion. And, that's a lot of money. And, people that know Mr. Bloomberg, they attest that he, even though he is a billionaire many times over, they say he's a very level-headed, fair-minded person that's very interested in the common good, the good of the average person. And all that may be very true, and his motivations may be very altruistic, and that's great. But I still have this huge fundamental problem with billionaires running for office, because there are no limits, there are no laws that prevent an individual from spending the individual's money on a campaign. And to be honest with you, so even the biggest campaigns, say the last couple of years, where Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, Barack Obama, I can't remember, I'm not going to try to even remember some of the competitors for Mr. Obama, and so on, but they very often would have to collect and spend certainly $500 million, and many times something approaching $1 billion. And that's, again, the citizen statesman thing would get rid of all that. But even just think about a person who had $55 billion. $1 billion, okay, that's a lot of money. And, how tightly do they pinch the pennies? But just think of that. I mean, it'd be like for any one of us, for some reason, we could spend 1/55th of our net worth and become president of the United States. So for example, let's say that maybe the average American at retirement, and I'm just making this number up, I think it's something in this range, but I think the average American at retirement has maybe $250,000, $200,000 worth of savings. So let's say that you take at the average American, $200,000 of net worth, or whatever, and so 1/50th of that, so 200. So you could spend, if I'm doing the math right, around $400. No, let's see here. So 200,000 divided by 100, it's 2,000, 4,000. So let's say that you could spend $5,000 to $10,000 and become president of the United States. There's just too much temptation for people, and it's just wrong. And doesn't it feel just fundamentally wrong to you? That's just somebody who happens for whatever reason, from inheriting a bunch of money or making the right business decision during a startup kind of thing like Bill Gates did. You just kind of fall into, you happen to have 50, 60, 80, $100 billion. Does that give you the right to, basically spend all that you want to buy an election. Is that the kind of democracy that we are looking for? Oh boy, that feels bad to me. So, as much as Mr. Bloomberg may be altruistic in his efforts, I personally think that we should move forward with systems to kind of stop this from ever happening. Shouldn't have happened in the past. We should stop it from happening in the future. And again, the citizen statesman is the way, that whole concept is the way for all of us to get beyond all of this, all the bipartisan bickering and the vitriol and the hate and the anger and the gnashing of teeth and all the gridlock in legislation in Washington and other capitals around the country, state capitals. It would all go away if we would, all of us, step forward and say, okay, we're declaring our independence from this political party system that we allowed to take over our governance. All right, so for Wednesday, December 11th, 2019, this is the Pro and Con Show. My name is Michael James Ott. Until the next show, bye for now.